Hello and welcome to the Printable Cuttable Creatables YouTube channel. My name is Lynn, or LV Handcrafted here on YouTube, and today I am crafting with the cute Mermaid SVG embellishment set, and this is a really amazing digital download because you get a lot in this file. So not only do you get the fully assembled version that you can print out, like what I'm using today, but you do also get the individual layered and separated version if you wanted to use your electronic cutting machine and do a little bit of decoupaging to layer up and form your mermaid that way. But there isn't just mermaids in this digi. There are lots of fun little ocean critters. There's the under the sea sentiment that has a lot of additional adornments. You have a seashell with a pearl, sort of an oyster shell. There's a seahorse and an octopus, a starfish, a crab, all sorts. And what I've done is, as I mentioned, I'm using the assembled version. So this is the flattened printable images, and I took different versions of the mermaid because there are a lot of different versions. She has different hair color and different accessories in her hair. So you have a lot of different versions of just the mermaid herself. And I paired her up with a little ocean friend. So for each of these, I scaled down one of the little ocean animals. So I used the seahorse and the fish in some of them. And what's great about digis is that you can scale them to fit your project. And as well, if you need to flip some of the images, you can do that as well. So for example, I have the mermaid positioned on the left, but since some of the fish, for example, are facing to the right, I just flipped it so that they are going to face my mermaid, so that it looks like the mermaid and the little ocean critter are looking at each other. So you can always do that. Now, here I have on screen the WRMK ButtonPress, and included in the ButtonPress is a set of platforms that I've already installed, one at the top, one at the bottom, and with every size and shape button that you can make, there is a cutting die, essentially, that you can use, as I'm doing now, to die cut through whatever design it is that you want to turn into a button. I've printed my designs just right onto plain old copy paper, and so this die cuts beautifully. I think you can also use different materials like fabrics if you wanted, but I like keeping the paper pretty thin. Because this does get sandwiched between a layer of acetate and as well the metal that forms the button. And so I like using that little aperture in the center there to make sure that I am centering my image within that circle. The circle that does get die cut, it is larger than the size of the button. So once the button is complete, it'll actually be a little bit smaller than this, but this die does cut it down perfectly so that it has a little bit of excess paper, just enough to wrap around that metal button and be fully kind of enclosed within the bottom portion of the button. And you'll see in a moment what I mean by that when we actually assemble our button. But the for all the different size and now shapes, because WRMK does have different shaped buttons like squares and heart-shaped buttons, you'll have a cutting die like the one that I used. If for some reason the die didn't cut through all the way like it did on this one, you can just trim off and whatever is still connected. It's okay if it's not a perfect cut because that's not going to be visible. The outside edges of these circular pieces, they get wrapped around the metal of the button, and so they won't be seen. So don't worry about getting that perfectly cut. Now I'm going to install the set or a pair of platforms that actually will assemble the button. There's a top piece and there's a base piece. And you'll see along the sides of your both platforms lines and letter markings. What you want to do is when you drop these in place, just rotate them around until you hear a click because there's magnets that hold them in place. And you can still rotate them around as I'm doing here because to make a button, it's actually a two-step process. The first step is we need to attach our image to the top of our button. And to do that, you want both the top and the base rotated to position A. Then what you want to do is the base out, as I've already done here, and that's going to allow you access to that cavity where you can start to load in the pieces to start to assemble your button. So I have the top of the button here. It's the one that is solid. There's nothing punched through it, and you want the smooth, shiny side face up. Then you want to load your printed design. On the plastic of the base, there are grooves. Those two grooves on both sides indicate the horizon line, so that if you are working with a directional design, you can be sure to line it up so that everything is facing the direction that you intend. And that way, when you line up the back of the button that actually has the pin, when the pin, if somebody is wearing it and it's important that there's a directional aspect to the button, then it will look correct. The last piece that goes on is the bit of thin acetate that does come with the button pieces. And that one's perfectly cut as well. I like to give it a really nice wipe to make sure, especially to make sure that the side that's touching the paper is free of dust, fingerprints, pet fur, because once you press down like I'm doing here, you're going to trap the acetate and anything that's under that piece of acetate between that and your printed design, and there's no way to clean it afterwards. So be sure to give that a good wipe and make sure it's nice and clean. This metal piece is the back of our button, and that's the piece that has the pin. Again, I am going to line up my pin so that it is horizontal with the grooves on that base platform. So I've got my ruler here just lined up with those grooves that are carved into the base, and I just made sure that that pin is horizontal and lined up with that. I turned both the top and the base to letter B, and now I'm going to press nice and firmly, and you don't need to put a lot of pressure. You don't have to put your entire weight into it, but I do like to give it a nice firm press and hold it for a second when it reaches all the way to the bottom. And here you have a completed button. Really, really fun. Lots of different, you can customize buttons to use any designs that you want, but I love the size of this button because you can really see a lot of the detail in the mermaid still. And so it's really, really lovely. You don't lose much detail with this size button. And here's the full set of 6 that I made. So you can see in this one, I chose the mermaid with the purple hair, and I paired her with the little fish, which I've scaled down to kind of make it sort of makes sense relative to the mermaid. And you can see that part of the tail of the mermaid, it is cut off, but the beauty of the way that the button press is designed is that that paper is just wrapped around to the back. So there is a little bit of continuity there, even though it is a little bit cut off. But these are so fun, so easy to make, and they would make great party favors if you had a kid's birthday and you wanted to make little goodie bags for all of the kids. So I think that's a fun way to just give everybody a little bit of a keepsake to bring home with them. Thanks so much for joining me today, and until next time, happy crafting and have a fabulous day. Thanks. Bye.